everyone. Firstly, thank you so much for tuning in, and it's always a pleasure to welcome you all to our showcase sessions. I hope everyone is safe and in good health. In our past showcase sessions, we have showcased a good number of automation tools that can help you in building end-to-end automation for your web, mobile, and APIs, Windows-based applications. Today, we are going to showcase another interesting tool that can help you in automating embedded systems, or you might have seen the touch panels on your refrigerators or the touch panels on different healthcare equipments or maybe on elevators and so on. How do you automate those electronic GUIs? Let's see that in this discussion today. And Squish is such a tool that is cross-platform that can also help you in automating your web, mobile, and Windows layers as well from automation standpoint. Let's explore that. And we have Harry and Thomas who will take us through this discussion. And I would like to welcome both of them. Harry, to start with, I welcome you to the showcase session today. Thanks for taking time and joining. We really appreciate it. Would you like to tell us how this journey started and what is your motive behind having Squish in the market today, and give us a brief around how you are positioned in the automation industry. Over to you, Harry.
Would be happy to do so. Thanks. Yeah. So my name is Harry Porton. I'm one of the two original founders of Froglogic. We have specialized on testing right from the start. We started in the year 2003, and I recall there were just one or two big dinosaurs of testing tool vendors alive back then, and we were the small ones fighting them basically. We noticed they were limited to just one or two platforms. Actually, I think Windows was the main one. They were slow to move, and we as a small new player there were a bit quicker. And one of our promises was definitely to go cross-platform, so not only cover the desktop, but also go to embedded systems. Mobile wasn't really present right away, but I think we were later the first ones to support both Android and iOS. So we started like that, and next to the cross-platform promise, we also wanted to be rather flexible. And of course, your viewers know the discussions about scriptless or not, how much visual test creation should be there. And of course, we were also confronted with those questions. And what we did is that we actually do a hybrid approach. So some dislike the capture and replay approach and want to do everything through scripting. We said, why not offer both? So there is a recording facility built in, but there are scripts coming out of it, either Python, JavaScript, Perl, Ruby, or Tickle. So that gave our users quite some flexibility. And so there is a convenience to create it from the high level, but also go deep into it, write your own script classes, and create all kinds of patterns there. And another topic that is also something that each tester is facing, and each test vendor, tool vendor does differently, is how are objects actually recognized. There is the dream of doing everything image-based. There are those other low-level scripting tools and fans. And again, we ended up doing a hybrid approach. So firstly, we try to teach our tool Squish about all the objects of the application, so buttons, menus, tables, lists, etc. But for those controls that are simply not recognized, there's also image-based testing available these days, including optical character recognition. So our users get to choose. But that's the high-level overview of us.
Thank you very much for that. Nice summary. And quick question again comes to my mind. Why you have several editions of Squish, like a several separate edition for Windows, something different for Java, and so on. So what was the motive behind that?
Yes, ideally, a generic approach would be nicest for everyone involved, but it's really our ambition to teach the tool about the UI toolkit. And we found out that in a C# application, things are done differently than in a web application. Android and iOS even are absolutely different under the hood. And we even go deeply into the process that is being tested. So it's not just the UI surface that we see through some automation API. We are in the process and see every GUI control that is there. And each of the additions are specific to one of them. But it turned out that later hybrid applications were coming out. So web content was embedded into desktop applications. Desktop components were embedded in the web, etc. Mobile was combined with desktop or embedded. So over time, we started to marry those. And actually, these days, one license includes all of the additions at once.
Okay, so coming to automation, since you are partnering with several enterprises, so what do you see as kind of trending phenomenon in the industry today from automation standpoint? Since enterprises are adopting more of agile and DevOps and trying to bring more speed into their quality journey. So can you reflect on your observation in the market? What's trending now?
Yes, speed is indeed one of the most dominating factors. So it's not like the QA departments want to take 1 or 2 months to test the current release. So we see the integration with the CI systems as having trended for quite some while now. And that means that the tool also needs to be available that way. And we, for example, have everything based on command line tools where the graphical user interfaces are just front ends, but the integration with the CI system can be done through command line tools that eat or take plain text files, output XML or HTML. So these kinds of integrations with other testing frameworks. And we have to also acknowledge that there are more types of testing. So this kind of openness has been very important. On the other hand, what we also are seeing is that the things have become much more versatile. I already mentioned the web that is there everywhere, but there are still classic technologies in industry. So be it medical or automotive, sometimes combined applications come up where there's, for example, an electronic display on an e-bike, and at the same time there is a companion app on a smartphone, and those hybrid structures have to be tested as well.
So the connected devices, you mean?
Yes.
The IoT.
Yeah, not just IoT, but even like a mobile phone that is there to, I don't know, take some readings of some medical device. So all those combinations with somebody just using the web browser to maybe check the state of a machine or whatever. So the number of combinations has really exploded.
Got it. Okay, so that was very insightful, Harry. Thank you very much for sharing those thoughts.
My pleasure.
All right, so we'll go to Thomas now. So Thomas, would you like to give a quick intro, and then I think we can get started on the demo.
Okay, so Squish GUI Tester, as Harry already mentioned, is a cross-platform multi-technology tool for the GUI test automation, and Squish supports testing on many platforms from Windows, OS X, Linux, different Linux distributions, and also mobile, Android, and iOS. So you already spoke about different editions, but if you look at them, we can see in how many scenarios Squish can be used to automate GUI tests. So for desktop, we can use Squish to test a Qt application of Qt widgets, QML. You can test Java applications, Windows native applications, native Mac applications, web applications, and we even recently released Squish for VNC, which can be used irrelevant to the UI toolkit that is being tested. Even for the mobile, you can use Squish to test native iOS applications, web applications on mobile, and even Qt application, which can be run on mobile, can be tested with Squish. And finally, what I really think is the greatest strength of Squish, and which is getting more and more popular, is a lot of embedded devices which are everywhere, from cars to fridges, ovens, and many devices that we are surrounded. They offer different kind of displays, and of course Squish can be used in such scenarios. And this is the Squish is very mature tool. It's been developed for many years, and we've been added features mostly based on our discussion with the real users, and we try to always meet their requirements and requests for different features. So there's a lot of features, capabilities, configurations, and in the such short demo, I will just show you a glimpse of that. But I will start by showing you my setup here. So I'm on my desk. I have a very tiny IMX6 based device, which is running a Qt-based application, and the application is actually very nice. You have different gauges here. You can set speed of the electric car, set heating. You have different and so I will just try to show you today one use case of testing this application just in a few minutes. So for that, I will open the Squish IDE, and you may notice that this is Eclipse-based IDE, which comes with the Squish package, and you can use the IDE to develop, maintain, and debug your automated tests. You can also use the IDE just to spy the UI components of your application under test. And first, let me show you so our settings. So if you go to the server setting preferences, here I have an entry saying that my application is running on the remote device and is running on this port number. So I can connect to the application, to the remote device to do the testing. And I have already created a test suite, and I have chosen Python 3 as my scripting language, which is the most popular scripting language currently in the world. And we also use the behavior-driven development and testing approach to design our test. So with this approach, we'll first describe the test in English, and then we will try to automate this test. So we can create a new BDD test case. We already start with some template. I will just remove that, and we'll copy feature from my notes. So, and you can see this is our scenario that we would like to automate. That when I set some speed to some values, some heating to some value, then the discharge power indicator should show the correct value. And you can see I have a lot of warnings here, because basically those, if we run the tests, which doesn't know how to execute those test steps. I can just click the record button to record this test case. I will choose to connect to my Greenbox application. And now basically all the interaction that I do with the application will be recorded. So the first step, my application is running, I'm attached to it. So I click this checkbox. Now I need to record the step when the gauges tab is open. So I just touch the gauges tab, and this step is implemented. And then when setting a speed to 20 kilometers per hour, so I'll try to set the speed using the slider to 20 kilometers. This is done. And the heating to 25 degrees. It's done. And now we can verify that the discharge power, so this indicator in the middle is showing the expected value. And with Squish, you have plenty types of verification that you can use depending on what you want to do. So you can use object property, for example, to verify text property for the object. In this case, we'll verify value property here. You can do screenshot comparison if you would like to check that your control looks as expected. You can verify content of the tables. You can do visual verifications. And our recent additions to the verifications are search image verification and OCR text verification. Of course, I could show you for 2 hours different verifications we can use, but I would just go with the properties.
And the screen that you are sharing, Thomas, is that a mobile device or a handheld device?
This is actually an embedded device. It's
embedded device.
Yes, so it's a small target device, and here I have attached, using these cables. Yes, I have attached the touch screen. Of course, the final, the production device will look much different. Yes, this is just a lab setup where the device looks like this. Yes, but probably this actually can be the same setup that is used in some modern cars, for example, when you have the dashboard. Yes, from the technical point of view, it's very, very, very similar.
So you are just using your camera to take the video,
yes,
right, of the screen, right?
Yes, because
okay.
This is the touch screen. Yes, and I'm also using my fingers to interact with the application.
Got it. Yes. Okay.
And Squish is fully remotable, so it's not just on one PC or one mobile device, but it can connect through a TCP/IP connection anywhere, and that is what Tomasz is making use of. So there is a network connection to that device. Yeah. And hardly anything of Squish is installed on it, so most of the testing functionality is placed on his Windows PC.
Yes, we just need to deploy a small Squish package. It's roughly 10 megabytes to the device to make it working.
So the summary is, we are trying to automate any type of GUI, be it a page, or it is a kind of a picture or a video of another device, basically, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, although the video now, of course, was just there for presentations. We are not going to check the video itself here. It's just for the viewers to see what's happening on the device.
Super.
Yeah. So going back, now we can show you, how we can verify that your application is working as expected. Yes? So we need to choose which controls. So now we want to verify a control. Yes. So I can use this picker tool and then just tap the UI control I want to verify. So I would like to verify that this discharge power indicator has a correct value being displayed. So I pick the object. In the bottom right, I see all the object properties and current values. I can filter this value and check the current value and add that to my verification. Yeah? So I'm expecting this object, this property, to have this value in my test scenario. And when I'm done, I click stop recording, and then I'm done with my test case. So I can click the stop recording button on the control bar. So you don't see the code yet, but you see this warning disappeared. And if I want to see what code will be executed when I run this test case, I can just click on this line. So maybe when setting a speed to 20 kilometers per hour, and you can see this is the code which is generated. Of course, I have a bit fat fingers. I was not able to set that to 20, but I can make that more precise. Yes. So this is the Squish API code which will be executed for every step that was recorded. Right. So I just adjusted that a bit. And now my test case is recorded. Of course, this is just some Python code. I can always modify that, change, extend, use different Python modules, whatever I want to do. This is just a basic use case. So now let's run this scenario, okay? And it will be executed on the real device. And you can see that when the test case is executed, and you can see that it took just 5 seconds to run the test case and no errors were reported. And for every step, we have the information that it was successful and our verification has passed. So, but you may wonder, how Squish knows where to find these controls that you are interacting with. Yes. So let's open this step when I set the speed to 20 kilometers per hour. And you can see when you look at the Squish API code, it's actually very easy to understand. We just scroll on this slider to the value 20. And if I will open this object name, I move to our object repository, where we store information about each UI control which is used in the test, yes, to interact with, to verify. And because when you start the test case, Squish is hooking to the application and is able to recognize all application objects, and it knows about its properties and values. And then we use those key object properties to recognize given UI control. So if you look at this slider, it's recognized by those properties. That is located the above widget is the label. This is a container, object type, and name visible. And Squish has its own heuristics to use the best possible properties to identify the object. But of course, you can always modify that. And I think that what I like the most about Squish is just it's very flexible, and you can always fine tune different ways Squish works to meet your needs. So you see that when we look for the control that we interact with, we don't rely on the screen resolution, screenshots, coordinates. So when we click on the button on the slider and it changes its look, location, size, the test case will still work without any problems. So let's go back to our scenario. You see here, let's create another scenario, okay? I'll just copy this one and create the next one. Let's set up some more high values. And just by copying those scenarios, we have new scenarios, but this time let's set a speed to 40 kilometers, heating to 30 degrees, so kind of hot in our car, but we have a 20 kilowatts energy will be used in our electric car. So let's, you see already, Squish doesn't know how to run this test case because those are different values. And when we refit the test case, we have a problem. But what we can do is we can parameterize our steps the same way you parameterize functions when you use some coding. So if you go to the step definitions, this one is not known, yes, one, and you can see that this actually is a value that we are using. So we use our placeholder integer. We just extend the step to number, and we use this number. And I will repeat this step to all those step definition. There are different placeholders that you can use, and Squish supports integer. It supports any placeholder, so for any characters and also for the word. Okay, I'm almost done. Okay, so let's go back, and you can see that the warning disappear, and without any recording, almost without any coding, we have yet another scenario that we can execute. And it's replayed on the device, and we have information. I'll show you one thing which is very interesting. So if I go to the test settings, I can tell Squish to, in case of any failure, to take a screenshots. And let's say in our test case, there will be let's expect that this value will be different, yes, 18. So now I changed the expected results to the incorrect one, only to show you how Squish will report to you that something is not working correctly. And you can see that Squish reported a defect, that this step is failing. And actually, if I double click on this entry, I have a screenshot from the target device, how it actually looked at the time of the failure. So it makes analysis of the defect much easier after you see a failure in your results.
That's beautiful. Very nice. And this, the screenshot resolution is so nice. It looks like as if, you have the screen in front of you.
Yeah, nice. That is something we We always try to make it possible for the users to analyze the problems and to be able to debug your test. Of course, we have a full test debugging perspective here. I will not get into that, but the analysis of with the screenshot, with the ability to put breakpoints in your test case, it's much easier to analyze the problem. Yeah, finally, I would like to show you one thing we implemented recently. So now I have my target device on a desk, yes, but what if I'm working from home, or my device in the lab, in the basement, or in the other country? Yes, how can I work in such a case? So once I attach to the application, I can actually view what the application is displaying. Yes, so I can go click the remote control button, and you can see this is what my application displaying. I can see here. So let me show you also the camera and this viewer. So you can see now I will click on different tabs on the device, and actually Squish will refresh my view. Yes, I said here I can set up the how many frames per second I would like to see, if my device is faster, slower, my network bandwidth is fine or worse. And it's not even that I can see this, what the device is displaying. I can manually, through the Squish ID, through this remote control dialog, I can interact with the application itself, yes. And having said that, I can also spy for my objects. I can record the test cases without having access to the device itself. Yes, and the device can be shared among many people. So that's something we are really happy, and we did that in the Squish 6.6, I believe.
Yeah, and this feature came quite handy now during the COVID-19 pandemic, as of course the testers often had to stay home, and the hardware equipment may have remained with their lab, or they were not allowed to travel internationally. So customers reported to us that through this kind of mechanism, they were able to actually look at the hardware they were testing, even though it was located in another country.
Wow. That's really, you know, it's a very functional, I would say, advantage, right? So accessing remotely and testing your, you know, applications remotely, you know, which otherwise need to be connected to, you know, your desk, or, you know, it will not be that straightforward to, you know, automate. Very nice.
Yeah, especially if there are some test stands, for example, for car navigation systems, which have a lot of other hardware included, and those can have like a 5-digit cost attached to it in dollars or euros and others. And this makes it possible to keep the costly test stand located in central places.
Wonderful. Very nice.
Yeah, the last thing I wanted to show you is that use the Squish ID to develop and maintain tests, but you can also run your automated tests from different CI solutions like Jenkins, Bamboo, TeamCity, even from the command line, and the results can be generated in different formats. And also we can, for example, we can generate a report in a web report, and you can see that it's, for example, when you run the test cases from the Jenkins plugin will generate this web report as well. And in the web report, all the screenshots in case of failures are displayed, and so you can also analyze the results of your tests. And also, if you have a lot of different configuration options, yes, you are testing different device types on different platforms, different configurations, and when you run your test cases nightly, you end up with having a lot of different results to analyze. and it's sometimes tons of test cases over time, over different configurations. And for that, we also have created a Squish Test Center, which is a result for test result management platform. And wherever you run your tests, from the IDE, from command line, from Jenkins or any other tool, you can push your results to this to this one platform, and within this platform you can analyze your results over time, over different parameters. And so that's a really nice addition to the Squish, I think.
So this is your centralized, test management platform, test center.
Yes, although the focus is not on test management, it's more about analyzing the results, because automated tools are producing a lot of results and it's sometimes hard to keep the overview. So is a problem specific to a certain version of Windows, or some tests may be flaky, and Test Center then gives you the overview of how did the test develop over time, which platforms are having problems, what are stable and unstable tests.
Yeah.
Got it. So one more question here. So
yes.
Since Test Center is primarily for keeping your test results and giving a kind of analytic view to your testing team. So how does it integrate with other test management tool in the ecosystem?
Yeah, it's not trying to replace other test management tools or defect tracking tools. Instead, what it does is to have adapters that can connect to them. And you see the traceability item listed there. So you can establish the traceability of test results back to a test defined in Sapphire, X-Ray, many others. So the list of third-party solutions that we can integrate with is very long, and you can sync the tests and results both ways. So no data is copied, it's just kept in sync.
Got it. No, thank you for that info, Harry.
Yes, maybe on top, what I already shown you is that Squish is fully object-oriented when you interact with the application, but it can also be used to verify that the widgets, for example, look as expected. Yes, so this time I will create a regular test case, not BDD, which will be just a Python script that you execute. And in this test case, I will verify that my camera broke. That when I set a speed to correct value, that the speed gauge looks correctly. Yes, and you can also use Squish for that. You can always verify a screenshot, but by that I mean not the entire desktop, but just a single widget. Yes, so if I will tap my speed gauge, I will check how it currently looks like. And this is my expected look for this widget when I run my test case. Yes, I'll click Save Insert Verifications and stop recording. So, and you can see that in my test case, I'm setting a speed slider to 75, and then I'm calling test.vp vp1, and this is my expected look of this object. Yes, so when I run my test case, this is the test case is of course executed on the target device, and we have information that both expected image and the actual taken during the test case execution are compared, and we expect them to be the same. It's even more interesting when they are not the same. So I will set a speed to 35 kilometers, and I will not change the expected image. And you can see how the Squish IDE have different tools to analyze the difference between actual and expected image. So if I will go with a view differences here, let me zoom that, and you can see that we have information about how they are different. And of course, you can decide if my image is correct and quickly replace that, or you can modify the way you compare images from the strict one to some tolerance searches to different algorithms, including the correlation algorithm. Or you can also apply some masks, positive, negative masks, to include some areas or exclude some areas from the verification. So, and finally, you can say that my image is correct and it will be used as expected when I run the test case again. Yeah, so we can of course go with verifying properties of different objects, but there are also different ways to focus more on how my application looks. So we are sure that for the end user that we verified not only some internal properties, but also what end user sees and uses the application.
Great. Thank you very much, Thomas, for that demo. It was really very informative. So a couple of questions here. Apart from testing these embedded, widgets, coming to other applications, like let's say web-based applications or any other mobile applications or APIs for that matter.
Yes, it works exactly the same way as we showed. The ID is the same, the scripting functions are the same. It is just a different kind of application that you are connecting to. And you will again see the objects of the application within the tree. You will see the properties. You can verify them, take screenshots. So it's really identical. We have designed Squish in a way that only one backend module is responsible for supporting a certain UI technology, but that can be easily replaced. The tool itself stays the same.
Got it.
And of course, we support all the common web browsers, mobile systems, desktop applications, back to Visual Basic. So everything is possible there.
Got it. And coming to the licenses. So is it like I can buy everything as part of a bundle, or I can go selectively for particular edition?
We started out with having everything separate, but over time, those hybrid applications became so popular where like native Windows controls showed up in one application or the web content was embedded. So these days, everything is in a single bundle and the customers can freely choose depending on the type of application.
That's great. Yeah, that makes sense. And how about the learning curve? Like, people who want to start adopting Squish, like what would be the learning curve?
Yeah, so for those that don't want to do any scripting, at least at first, they can use the recording mode that we saw in the demo earlier. So that's the best way to get started. But we also say that each tester is well capable after some time to start changing those scripts, to adapt them, create functions, have parameters, and so on. So we invite all our users to gradually move over to modifying the scripts that they have recorded. But with regards to also the ROI that is there, I think each vendor should be honest. The creation of the first handful of tests may take much longer due to the learning curve that would be there. And after a while, once some ready-made steps are created, as we saw, then speed will pick up. But it's not a good idea to extrapolate the cost or time of development of 100 test cases based on the first handful.
All right, so that was a nice demo, and thanks for all the insightful inputs here, Harry.
Thank you for the opportunity.